Live once again from Wellington, New Zealand, it's Malignant Bear, featuring me, JD Graspitz. Hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. Tonight we're continuing once again with Please Be Happy. This is the very wholesome, safe for work Yuri visual novel by Studio Élan that we started last week. We are picking up midway through chapter 2. If you'd like an explanation for why we are doing a full stream of a visual novel when we don't usually do these, that is in the video description. So I will not go over that again. But I will go over where we are in the plot. So for those joining us maybe late or just want to recap after last week, our story focuses on Miho, who is a Korean gumiho, a magical fox girl, and she has spent her entire life, which we can estimate to be hundreds of years at the very least, traveling around the world, being a thief basically, desperately trying to find a person who was once nice to them when she was just a regular fox. After lifetimes of doing this, she has settled down with some people in New Zealand, in Wellington, with Aspen and Juliet. Juliet is a vampire and owns a library, and Miho's living with her. They're good friends with Aspen, who works in a coffee shop and is a very cliched bookworm. These are the first two people that Miho has ever met that do not forget her after 24 hours. Or so she thinks, at least. We'll get into that a little bit more as it goes on. It's mostly just because they got lucky with the timing, but it fascinated her enough that she decided to stick around and try to be a normal human. So, the game goes day by day in terms of her life and what's going on, and we're in her final weekend of freedom before she starts her first ever job working in Juliet's library. So she's met some other friends, has some other side things going on, but again, all of them forget her within 24 hours, so makes it a little awkward. So with that out of the way, we will pick up where we left off. There's the mouse.
Shall we pick up where we left off?
Wow, what are the odds? So we are here in Wellington, and again we get to pick what events we're going to do here on the little map. Any events that are just a clock or just passing time. Nothing actually happens in them. You know, you might get a couple sentences, nothing major. But these are all of the possible places we can go for various things. And again, we'll find out more about them depending on where we end up, where we want to go for certain things. The only actual event we have right now on the map is at the park to meet with Lena. Lena is a friend of Aspen, works with her at the Bell House Cafe. Lena is a very energetic, rambunctious, extroverted bird girl. And she's head over heels for a dryad, a plant man named Cyrus. And it seems like he sort of reciprocates, but they're both a little too awkward in their own ways to talk to each other. So Lena keeps doing anything and everything she can to get close to Cyrus. During conversation with Aspen, she told me what Lena's next adventure would be, an outdoor painting class. When the time rolls around, I decided to go check it out. Just like the other activities I've tried with Lena, it'll be happening in the park. When I arrive, I don't even have to look around. The class is right next to the entrance. The group is bigger than the one for tennis and tree planting. Everyone has a big canvas on a stand in front of them. There are a bunch of paints and brushes in the middle. Lena's easy to find like always, and I see Cyrus on the other side of the crowd away from her. Seems like he's not the one in charge today. A friendly person in a paint-stained apron sees me arrive and helps me choose a canvas and some art supplies, then sends me to find a spot. Naturally, I head over to where Lena is.
Hey, mind if I set up here? Oh, sure. Are you new here?
So again, we have interacted with Lena several times at this point, but regrettably she forgets us every time.
Yeah, this is my first time painting. Me too. Wanna have a Actually, maybe you shouldn't race when you're painting.
I take a peek at what Lena's been working on. It doesn't seem like there's a particular topic, so everyone's painting is different. Lena's painting is a picture of a young swan with a pink flower on its head. It's surprisingly great.
This is amazing for your first time.
Lena has a tendency to be more enthusiastic than she is skilled.
You think so? I mean, of course it is. What are you gonna paint? I don't know yet. Let's see.
There are a bunch of different size brushes and a variety of colors. Having so many options to choose from makes it harder, not easier, to decide. Maybe I should go for something simple, like a tree. Choosing a brush and a shade of brown, I get to work.
Alright everyone, warm-up's over. Go ahead and find a partner. We're going to work on portraits today.
My tree is mostly done by now. It's not very detailed, and it doesn't look like any tree I've ever seen in real life, but at least I can tell what it's supposed to be. When the instructor says choose a partner, I instinctively turn to Lena, preparing to ask her. But of course, she's looking over in Cyrus's direction. I sigh to myself.
You should go ask him before he ends up with someone else.
It'll mean I have to partner up with a stranger, but as far as Lena's concerned, she and I are already strangers, so it shouldn't make that much of a difference. Lena jumps in shock.
Whoa, are you a mind reader? Something like that. That's so cool! You're right, though. But what if he says no? Then he says no, I guess. Nothing would have changed, right?
She taps her chin.
You know, you kind of remind me of someone I work with. Anyway, wish me luck. Good luck.
I watch as Lena goes up to Cyrus and talks to him, too far away for me to hear. I guess it must work out, because they soon set up their canvases facing each other. Unfortunately, watching them means I missed out on my chance to find a partner. When I look around, everyone else is matched up with someone. That's more than fine with me, but unfortunately the instructor comes over and invites me to partner up with her, which I grudgingly accept. For the next little while, I struggle to make something that resembles the woman across from me. This would be a lot easier if she looked like a tree. After 10 or 15 minutes, she claps her hands to get everyone's attention.
Time to change things up. Show your partners what you made, and then go find a new partner.
While everyone gets to that, she brings her canvas over to show me.
Whoa.
It's definitely me. My tail is fluffier in real life and my ears aren't that big, but I can still recognize myself.
Mine's not even close to that good.
I turn around the canvas so she can see the results. Compared to the painting she made, I'm kind of embarrassed to share. Still, she smiles at it.
I think it's lovely. Painting is like anything else. The more you do it, the more you improve. And I've been doing it for a long time. We all have to start somewhere, though.
The moment the instructor and I are done talking, someone taps me on the shoulder. I turn around to see Lena.
Hey, let's be partners. Sure.
Secretly, I just think to myself about how I'm getting paired up with another good artist. The instructor blows a whistle to signal the starts, and Lena and I both get to work.
So, how'd it go? How'd what go?
I know she can't have forgotten me that quickly.
Talking to Cyrus. Oh, that.
Using a few shades of pink and whites, I managed to paint something that looks passably close to Lena's clothes. If I squint a little, at least.
I got too nervous to really say much, so we just painted each other until it was time to switch.
In the middle of a brushstroke, Lena suddenly drops her brush in horror.
Oh no! What if he thinks I'm boring?
I don't think anyone could think that about you.
Yeah, but what if he does? This is not good!
Leaving the paintbrush in the grass, Lena closes her eyes and puts her fingers to the sides of her head like she did back at tennis. She must do that for at least a minute, while I just keep working on my painting. Looks more like Lena than my last one looked like the painting instructor, but I already know her wings are going to give me trouble.
Okay, got it. I need you to do me a favor.
What is it?
When we change partners again, I need you to go partner up with Cyrus, and then you can ask him what he thinks about me.
Don't just straight up ask him, though. That'd be too obvious. Try to see if you can get him to say it without saying it. Say it without saying it?
Miho has a lot of social issues. Maybe this is not going to go so well.
Yeah, you know, like,
She makes a few gestures that remind me of charades, but I have no idea what she's trying to say.
Okay, I'll try. Thanks! I owe you one!
I'm not even motivated by that, because it's not like she'll remember long enough for me to ever cash it in. I just want to see what happens.
All right, new partners. This'll be the last time.
Here, this is my painting of you. It's better than the last one.
It still isn't great, but I like the way some parts of it turned out.
Ooh, I look great!
Looking down at her own canvas, Lena frowns.
I, kind of forgot to paint you.
So, I guess I owe you two things. That's fine. Cool. Okay, hurry, before someone else takes him.
I walk over to Cyrus as fast as I can without being self-conscious about it. Fortunately, he was distracted with something himself, so he's still on his own.
Hey, wanna be partners?
Alright. I'm sure it's a total coincidence you were just talking with Lena, right?
Totally.
Not at all.
I appreciate the honesty. Anyway, let's get started.
Both of us set up our canvases. I feel a little more in my comfort zone painting Cyrus. At the same time, I try to think of how to do what Lena asked.
Hey, can you do me a favor?
Uh-oh. I mean, what is it?
There's something that I want to ask Lena, but I don't know how she'll take it. We've known each other for a bit, but that's why I'm worried. I mean, I kind of know her feelings, but not that well. So, and maybe don't ask her this outright. Maybe you can try to see how she feels by, like...
He makes some vague hand gestures that eventually turn into a shrug.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, I don't.
Anyway, what I want to know is...
All right, that's it. Time to show 'em off.
I rub my ears to recover from the sound before waiting for Cyrus to continue.
Actually, never mind. It was dumb anyway. Here's what I made. Ta-da!
Cyrus spins his canvas around to reveal...
Oh, phew.
I can't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He's just as bad at painting as I am. I show my equally unimpressive work. It's messy and scattered.
Nice job. You really captured the way I feel inside.
Big mood. I want to press on him what he was going to say because this is the second time he's almost asked me about Lena, then changed his mind. Before I can ask, though, Lena herself comes hurrying over, carrying her canvas. She walks up and shoves it into Cyrus's hands before I can even react.
I made this for you so you'd have it. Okay, bye!
Immediately, she steps back off the way she came. He holds the portrait at arm's length, where he can see it. I move behind him to get a good view as well. Just like Lena's picture of the swan, her picture of Cyrus is really good. Shows him looking as thoughtful as he works on his own painting, biting his lip in concentration. There's a lot of detail in his eyes and face, and on the leafy vein that runs up his neck.
Whoa. This is...
Really good?
yeah.
The two of us look around to try to find Lena, but she's nowhere to be seen. She must have left right away, or she's hiding somewhere.
What was it you wanted me to ask her?
Cyrus just shakes his head, still looking at the painting.
It's fine. I need to ask her myself.
I think you got your answer there, bro. All of us, minus Lena, help the instructor clean everything up, with some people taking home their portraits and others tossing them. Cyrus and I say goodbye to each other, but we never talk anymore about Lena. Still, even if it's a while before we hang out again, I have a feeling I haven't heard the last of this. Alright, so this is again where we get to pick two different events. So in this case, anytime you're playing this game, there's two major routes you can choose, and they correspond to your love interest. And then there's the thing with Lena that happens every single time. You will always see that. And then you get to choose one side story, one of these two side stories. The little kid with the divorced parents, or the old man in the sea. We are going with the old man in the sea. Feeling bored, I head down to the waterfront and Mr. Kim's fishing lessons. This will be the third time I've gone. I was prepared to give up last time, but actually catching a fish was a lot more satisfying than I thought it would be. I'm sure I'll keep doing it in the future, too. I guess that makes it one of my hobbies at this point. At the very least, it's better than just wandering around town. When I get there, I'm surprised to find the fishing spot is empty, other than Mr. Kim himself. He's sitting on a folding chair with a sandwich in one hand and a book in the other. He sets down both as he notices me arriving.
Hey there, miss. Something I can help you with?
Oh, I was here to go fishing, but it doesn't look like anyone else is here.
If you're looking for a lesson, then I'm afraid the pool's closed, which is to say the next one doesn't start for a couple of hours. But if you just want to try your luck with the ocean, you're more than welcome to borrow a rod.
So again, Mr. Kim forgets us every time.
Sure. Thanks.
Now that I know what to do, I don't really need Mr. Kim to walk me through it each time. I should be fine on my own. I attach a lure and then cast my line out into the water.
I hope I don't catch the same fish as last time.
The first time, Miho caught nothing. The second time, she caught a fish and chose to release it. Since there's not much else to do, I look out at the sea while I wait. It's been a long time since I've been on a ship or even a boat. A long time ago, they were the best way to get around. Ever since there started being airships going all over the world, I sneak onto those instead. While I'm standing there reflecting, Mr. Kim comes up beside me.
No bites yet?
Nope. Nothing.
Maybe the fish all went out to eat.
Like usual, he takes a moment to laugh at his own jokes.
That's fine. I had to wait even longer than this last time.
That's the right attitude to have. They can keep you waiting for a while.
You've been waiting for a long time for a certain fish, right?
Spot on. Who told you about that?
I took one of your lessons a while ago. You told me about it then.
Huh. Well, my memory sure isn't what it used to be. Anyway, you're absolutely right. Not just any fish. He's the king.
The king?
Elvis. The way Mr. Kim says it sounds dramatic.
Yes, the king of the ocean. He travels the waters of the world, all on his own. He takes his meals from a different fisher every night. It's said that if he chooses you, you'll have 7 years of good luck.
He winks, giving me a big thumbs up.
Not a bad deal for catching a fish, right?
7 years. Wow.
Sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? To tell you the truth, I don't care too much about that. But the privilege of being recognized by the king of the ocean, now that is a prize worth chasing.
So, if he's always swimming around the world...
Trying to picture it in my head. That's a lot of water.
He only comes by once a year. 1 day is all you get, and then he's on to his next stop. And then the next fisherman.
No wonder you've been waiting for so long then. How many years have you been after him?
Oh, I've given up counting at this point. 16, 17, who's to say? I stopped keeping track at least 5 years ago. I've seen him once, which is more than many can say, but he swam right past our shores. I heard he was landed a few towns away.
I'll bet he must be huge if he's the king.
He's not tiny, that's for sure. His scales are every color at once, and they look like gemstones in the water.
Whoa. I want to see him.
You'll get your chance in a few months. He's due to swim past Wellington a couple of weeks before the new year. You can bet I'll be ready.
I'll try to. What do I have to do?
That's up to you. Some say it's just luck. Some say it's about having the tastiest looking bait. Some say the only thing that matters is where you're standing when he passes by. For me, I try to get to know the fish and the sea. I figure if they trust me, they can put in a good word with the king,
Mr. Kim talks to me about fish and fishing for a while longer, until it's time for me to head off. Though I didn't catch anything today, I still liked hearing those stories, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. At the end, he invites me to come back and fish anytime, whether it's a lesson or not. I promise to take him up on his offer, even though I know he won't remember it. I'd like to see this king, too. Still a couple of months before he'll be here, so that's plenty of time for me to get better at fishing. With that new goal in mind, I head back home, already looking forward to returning. After having dinner and saying goodnight, I head upstairs to get ready for bed. As I flick off the lights and start to leave the restroom, something in my reflection catches my attention. My bead is glowing slightly. Just barely. It's so faint that I can only notice it in the darkness. Removing the necklace, I inspect it more closely. They're warm. Not just my magical bead, but the regular ones next to it too. Not as warm as when I use my transformation magic, but enough that after hundreds of years of carrying them, I can detect the difference. I'm not sure what it means. Everything about my magic has always been a mystery to me, really. Some things, like transforming, I just knew how to do instinctively from the beginning. But other than the fact that my bead always comes back to me no matter where I leave it, I don't know much about it. Returning to my room, I brush my hair to the side and put the necklace back on. I don't have to wear it when I sleep, but it feels more uncomfortable not having it on, like something's missing. When I climb into bed, I pull the covers up to my chin like always. Rather than transforming, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow is my first day of work. Never in a few hundred years I expected to ever cross, or that thought to ever cross my mind. Lying here in the place I've started thinking of as a home, the idea doesn't seem that scary. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm excited too. Maybe I'll be really good at it. It'd be nice to be good at something other than thieving. As my eyes begin to get heavy, it occurs to me that usually I'd have changed into a fox by now. Except for the first night when I was too tired, I've spent all my nights here in that form. But tomorrow, and taking another big step into people life, it feels more appropriate this way. Rolling onto my side, I face out the window and let myself succumb to sleep, with the gentle warmth of my beads against my neck. Morning of my first day of work, I wake up extra early, at least an hour before Aspen will be here. I creep through the house so Juliet can't hear me and slip out the front door. Outside, it's wet. I don't know if it's rain or just the morning dew. There's more dark than sunlight still, but I can already see the clouds overhead are gray. Just 2 weeks ago, that would have been a cause for concern. Now it's barely worth thinking about. I have somewhere warm to go back to. I start walking, taking a familiar path. Has it really only been 2 weeks? I feel like I've done more living in the past few days than in all the years before them. Every day something new, and every evening something secure. It's a life I could have only dreamed about. It scares me how fast I've slipped into it. I spent my whole life alone, devoted my entire existence to keeping it that way, but now, ever since meeting Aspen and Juliet, I'm not sure I like being on my own quite as much. It feels like I'm losing part of myself, my armor, my defense mechanism, like I'm getting weaker, and maybe that's true, but also, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay to let myself be a little more vulnerable. Just a little. There's no one else to be seen on Mount Victoria as I make my way up the path. Instead of going straight to the top, I veer off into the underbrush. I haven't been back to my den since Juliet came and found me. I haven't forgotten the way, though. All the rain since then has done a number on the den. It's barely recognizable, since most of it's collapsed into mud. In other words, it hasn't changed much since the last time I was here. Overhead, the birds chirp in the trees. Maybe they're the ones I fed before.
Morning, birdies. Sorry I don't have anything for you today.
Doesn't stop them from asking. Half-heartedly, I try scooping away some of the mud from the mouth of the den, but more just slides down, erasing my progress. Then one of the walls collapses even more, making things worse.
Well, so much for that.
It's well and truly ruined. That's okay, though. I don't think I'll be coming back here. Just 2 weeks ago, this was all I had. Now it doesn't feel like anything. Maybe that's okay, too. I turn, about to head back to the main path, and there's the rustle of a branch and something comes out of the brush. She walks confidently for a fox. She trots right out of the bushes and crosses in front of me, then freezes mid-step. Her fur is pure silver, except for a patch of black across her face and paws. We lock eyes. Instinctively, I can feel myself prepare to transform, so I can greet her as a fox. But I hesitate. Is that still my place? I'd be lying if I called myself a fox now, at least fully. I relax, not having noticed how tense I was. My beads also go cold, although they'd barely started to heat up.
Hi there.
I say it as a person instead, same as when greeting the birds. At the sound of my voice, the fox turns tail and runs. She doesn't give it a second thought. 1 second she's there, and the next she's almost out of sight. I can feel a pull in my chest telling me to run after her. I'm sure I could still catch her if I tried. Of course, I don't. I'm not the kind of person who goes chasing after foxes anymore. Instead, I watch her disappear. It doesn't take long, not even the grass rustles behind her. I'm sure I'll still transform into a fox in the future. I love it too much not to. But I have to set some boundaries for myself. Watching her go fills me with a pang of longing, but also confidence. Making a choice to live this way. Even if I regret it later, at least I thought about it. At least I'm trying. I make my way back up the trail into the top of Mount Victoria. Coming up here never ceases to amaze me. No matter the weather or the time of day, the view is always stunning. Right now, it's just me and the breeze. I close my eyes and spread my arms out, letting the wind ripple through my hair and jacket. For a moment, I just let myself go and appreciate how it feels to exist, to be alive and enjoying the breeze. I'm pretty lucky, aren't I? Slowly opened my eyes again, looking over the city spread before me. First time I came up here, I thought I felt kind of small. After all, I can see the whole thing from up here. But now, it strikes me how big it is. How big and how full. There are more people than there are buildings, and there are plenty of buildings. Humans and fabled, all alive and existing. Up until now, it's been easy for me to forget that people just exist like I do. That they have thoughts and feelings and things that they want, rather than just problems to solve or obstacles to avoid. Now I can't help but notice how alive the world is around me, even at this early hour. I may be alone up here, but there's plenty of activity down in the city. I fumble around in my pockets until I find the right size coin and feed it into the binoculars nearby. I scan over the city, looking for anything I recognize. Finding the fishing spot is easy, since all I have to do is follow the coast. The whole pier is already covered in fishermen. From there, I manage to find the bell house. Its windows are dark and it doesn't stand out much. Wonder if Aspen will be the first one there again today. After the bell house, I aim the lens at the library. The windows are dark there too, of course, including the window to my room. I pause on that image. Just my window, framed in the middle of the lens. From all the way up here, I can spot a tiny little place that I can call my own. I stare at it until the shutter clicks and the view goes dark. Just 2 weeks ago, I stood up here and wondered if I'd be better off leaving. I'm glad that I have an answer to that now. I turn around and begin the long walk home. The library is still dark when I get back, but I can hear the low murmur of conversation from the kitchen. As I step through the doorway, I find both Aspen and Juliet already seated at the table, waiting for me. Breakfast is already cooked too. There's a lot more food than usual.
Ah, Miho. Welcome back.
There you are! We were wondering where you'd gone off to.
Morning! Just went out for a walk. Sorry if you thought I ran away again.
Aspen shakes her head, pouring herself a cup of coffee as I sit down.
The thought crossed my mind, but I didn't really believe it. You've got a big day today, right?
You can say that again. Went on my walk just to clear my head.
I hope you're excited too. I'm happy for you, even if I am a teensy bit jealous.
Aspen spoons a tiny scoop of sugar in her coffee and stirs it. Wait, is that how you're supposed to do it? I'll have to remember in case Juliet ever makes me drink tea again.
A teensy bit of jealousy is a good motivator to work even harder myself.
Actually, about that...
Juliet, you had better not be about to offer me a job.
Rather the opposite. I have a favor to ask. Just for today, do you think you could assist Miho as she gets her bearings? It's getting near my bedtime, and while I'm sure Miho would be able to handle herself, I imagine a helping hand would make things easier. That is, assuming Miho doesn't mind.
Of course not.
Both of us look at Aspen expectantly. She bites her lip and tries to hide her smile behind her cup of coffee as she takes a sip.
Well, I suppose I could spare the time.
Great. But what about the Bell House? You didn't get fired, did you?
They'd go out of business the day they fire me, and they know that. But I enjoy how that's your first assumption. No, I simply swapped shifts with someone, so I don't have to go in until later.
Wow, that's convenient.
And much to our benefit. Thank you, Aspen.
Don't mention it.
Then, shall we turn our attention to breakfast instead?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask.
There's usual eggs and toast and fruits, but there's also pancakes and hash browns too.
You really went all out, huh?
I felt today merited a bit of a celebration. Of you, and the start of another chapter of your life.
Aw, thanks. It's really all because of you two, though. I'm just...
Oh, quit saying that. You need to give yourself more credit, Miho. We can only try to help show you the path. You're the one who has to follow it.
Whoa, who wrote that?
Nobody. I do occasionally have my own thoughts, you know. Anyway, just accept the compliment and let's eat.
Fine.
We all fill our plates and start to eat. Breakfast is as delicious as always. Pancakes are still warm and dripping with melted butter and syrup. The hash browns are nice and crispy.
How is it?
Great! I've never had hash browns that weren't soggy before.
That's because they were leftovers I scavenged, but sometimes even when they're fresh.
I'll be sure to remember you like them this way. Oh, and the pancakes you made are delightful, Aspen.
You made these?
Don't sound so shocked. I have to do a lot of baking and prep work at the Bell House.
They're really, really good.
Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying them.
I love the subtlety in this, in that because Miho is still not used to being human, she's very clearly talking with her mouth full. Like, they didn't try to hide that. I have no idea if that was something that the voice actress chose, or it was direction or what, but it's perfect. It fits the scene so well. She's done it a few other times as well. As tasty as they are, there ends up being more food than I can eat. I force myself to finish the pancakes, even though I'm full by the time I'm halfway done with them, because I don't want Aspen to take it personally. But eventually I have to throw my fork down in defeat.
Did you get enough to eat, Miho?
More than enough. I think I'm set for the rest of the day.
No girl dinner for Miho later.
I'm sure you'll feel differently by lunchtime.
And there's no greater compliment to the cooks.
The three of us start to clear away the dishes, and I start to feel a little apprehensive as opening time draws near. I've spent enough time in the library to know I don't need to worry too much, but I can't help but be anxious. There are a lot of little details to remember, not just which books go where, but stuff like names and special requests too. I already know I'm not going to be the fastest, since I'll just have to copy words and see which ones match instead of being able to read them. With all the practice and memorization I'm done, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. So instead of dwelling on it, I make myself focus on rinsing the dishes, making sure I don't miss any spots. On the other hand, Aspen is positively buzzing with excitement, although I can tell she's trying to hide it. She flits from task to task, straightening things that don't need to be straightened and tidying up parts of the kitchen that aren't dirty. She hums to herself as she goes, sometimes popping up beside me or Juliet. And of course, Juliet herself is the same as ever, calm and stoic. I thought she might be a bit worried about leaving the library in our hands, but considering she leaves it unstaffed most of the time, maybe not. At the very least, I'm determined not to leave the library any worse than when there's nobody running it. Probably a safe goal there. Finally, we all finish the cleanup and chores.
Thank you for your assistance. Are you two ready?
Yes, whenever.
Yep.
Let's get the two of you set up then.
Juliet leads us to the front desk, where there's a fresh stack of checkout sheets and a jar of pens, plus the computer for looking things up.
I did a once-over before breakfast to make sure everything was as it should be. I'm sure the two of you know your way around the place by now, and that's really all there is to it. And if you feel the need, don't hesitate to wake me.
Don't worry, we'll be fine. I'm like Cinderella. I intend to live my dreams for the precious few hours that I can.
Do you have any questions, Miho? Or anything you'd like to go over again?
I'm fine. I've done all the prep I can.
All right then. If the two of you are all set up, then I'll be off to bed. I'll see you in a few hours.
Have a good sleep.
Good night.
With a final wave, Juliet goes upstairs and disappears into her room. They never answer this, regardless of which route you go on, so I can say this now. But I have no idea if Juliet sleeps in a bed or a coffin. Kind of wondered that, and they just never address it. Studio Élan, if you're listening, please. I need to know. This is important. I don't know why. Curiosity. Anyway. From behind the desk, Aspen places her hands on her hips and looks around like a queen surveying her kingdom.
And now we wait.
I take a seat in one of the two chairs and kick my feet back and forth. After pacing around a little bit, Aspen sits down too, twirling a pen between her fingers.
Nervous?
A little bit.
It's understandable. I was nervous on my first day of work too. I'm sure everyone is.
I just don't want to mess anything up. Especially not on my first day.
Relax, it'll be fine. Not that I think you will, but even if you do make a mistake, that's natural. It's how you get better at things, by doing them wrong until you figure out the right way. There's not much that can really go wrong, either. It's not like at a restaurant where there are customers paying money and with all kinds of different orders. If it takes you some extra time to find a book or put one away, that's no big deal.
Yeah, I know you're right, but I still worry. I don't want to do such a bad job that Juliet changes her mind about me or something.
Are you still worried about that? Juliet adores you. You could burn the whole library down and she'd still let you live in the ashes.
That'd be closer to what I'm used to, at least.
Right, you and your dramatic backstory.
My what?
Backstory? Life story? Whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't make light of it.
Oh, it's fine. I don't mind. Just forget that you think it's interesting.
I hope someday you understand why. Maybe you'll hear a story that resonates with you and makes you want to know more. Or get to know that person better.
She pokes me in the side with her pen.
Like me, when I met you.
I guess that makes sense. Like, when I talked to you and Juliet.
Juliet, perhaps. Even I don't know much about her life before she came to Welly. And even that is fuzzy.
And you?
I know this makes me sound like a hypocrite, but there really isn't much to say about my past. For one thing, I don't have nearly as many years as you two. But also, I had a boring, normal childhood in a boring, normal town. I went to a boring, normal school for a while before I moved out here, hoping for a change of pace, But now I live a boring, normal life, just in a different city.
I'll bet I wouldn't think it's boring. I don't even know what a normal town and normal school are like.
Aspen opens her mouth to say something, but right as she does, the front door opens and Aspen leaps to her feet.
Good morning!
The guest, a red-haired human, looks surprised.
Oh, hello. Wasn't aware there was anyone working this early.
I'm just helping out today. But Miho here is the library's new daytime caretaker.
Boy, sure is warm under this bus, Aspen.
Hi there.
I wave, but I'm not sure if there's anything else I'm supposed to say. Luckily, Aspen seems to have it covered.
Let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Cool. Congrats, Miho. I'm just here to browse. Thanks, though.
Enjoy!
She gives him a bright smile as he walks in and heads to the books before taking her seat again. It is odd that the first thought for Miho's job as someone who is, like, not socialized, has an issue where people forget her, and is illiterate, like completely illiterate, is to work the front desk in the library. I'm not sure what else you could have her do. Obviously this is convenient because Juliet owns the library. But yeah, wow, that's... I can't think of much worse. Although on the other hand, this would be a job that would solve all of those problems, assuming she gets good at it. Not that people forgetting her would, but she would get better at socializing and presumably at some point learn to read and write.
Good job! Thank you. Why don't you greet the next guest?
Do I have to do that for everyone who comes in?
No, but a smile and greeting never hurt. Although we'll have to keep the volume down.
Right.
The door opens again and a pair of twin dryads enters. I stand up, my legs feeling just a little shaky.
Hi! Let us know if we can help.
Neither of them speak, but they both smile graciously and nod in acknowledgement as they pass us by.
See? That wasn't so bad, was it?
No, but so far no one's needed any help.
True. Let's see who we get next.
We don't have to wait long. A breathless man carrying a stack of books staggers his way over to us.
Do you work here? Can you check these in for me? I'm running late as it is. Thanks!
Before he can even answer, he drops his book on the desk and then hurries back out the door.
I wonder why he was in such a rush.
No clue, but I respect him still taking the time to drop off his returns. Do you want to start writing them down?
Sure.
Taking a deep breath, I grab the top book and a pen. The title isn't too long, fortunately. Slowly, I start copying the letters down. First a curve, then a straight line, then a loop, then an arch.
Hello, welcome.
I didn't even hear the door open this time. As more and more people start to come in, Aspen and I both end up pretty busy. The pile of books that need to be checked in grows fast, and I have to start taking some of them back to the shelves as I go, just to make space. But using a little chart with the alphabet and numbers on it, I'm able to slowly match the labels on each book to their spot on the shelves. As the library gets busier, though, I start making some educated guesses about where certain books belong and putting them with others that look similar. I can fix it later if I have to.
Miho, could you give me a hand, please?
Over at the desk, the line of people has gotten pretty long. I have no idea what these people normally did when there wasn't anyone to help them. I shove the rest of the stack I'm carrying into an empty shelf and hurry over to help. After finishing with one guess, she hands me a few handwritten notes with label numbers on them.
Can you go find these? I think one was returned today, so it might not be on the floor yet. Also, these ones were checked out in the wrong name, so they need to be corrected on the sheet. These 3 here are going to be picked up later, but we've been asked to pull them ahead of time, so make sure not to get them mixed up with the others. Okay?
Got it. Maybe.
You've got this.
With a little cheer, she goes back to assisting people. I watch for just a moment. She's clearly in her element here. Even with the line growing longer, Aspen doesn't seem to be getting nervous. I can't say the same about myself, though. There's no time to waste. bounce around the library trying to find the books Aspen wrote down. It takes a while, and I get the instructions mixed up a few times, but eventually I manage to track them all down. When I bring them up to the desk, the stack of returns has gotten almost as tall as I am, so I start checking them in as quickly as I can. Meanwhile, Aspen has moved around to the front to give him more space to write and work.
Alright, let's see.
I grab the top book and start to copy, then the next, then the one after that. Before long, they all start to blend together and the letters seem to swirl around on the page. I thought this was going to be easy, but it's making my brain feel like soup. She's not even holding the pencil correctly, I love it. I'm determined to push through it though, even if it takes me forever, which at this rate it just might. If Aspen weren't here, I don't know what I'd do, or what I'll even do tomorrow on my own. I can worry about that later though. For now, I have to keep doing the best I can. Book after book, line after line, guest after guest. It gets easier as the day goes on, but I wouldn't say it gets easy. But Aspen and I keep going, and eventually we start to get things under control and keep the chaos to a minimum. It's tough work, but not too tough. Maybe Aspen's right about something. The more I try, the more I feel I can do this. Alright, on to Chapter 3.
Have a nice day.
Thanks. You too.
It's Monday morning again, which it was previously, so probably a week has passed. The kind old man takes his books under his arm and shuffles out of the library, a whiff of cool air passing over me as the door opens and shuts.
Whew. Finally time for a break.
With no one else waiting to be helped, I glance around at the dozen or so people milling about before plopping myself down onto the cushion that Juliet set up for me behind the desk. Who knew that working would be such hard work? Girl, are you serious right now? These past few weeks, several weeks, since I started helping out at the library have been such a blur. There's always so much to do. At least most of the time it's pretty easy, like straightening out furniture or putting things away when they get left out. I don't know what the big deal is. I think it looks better when it's a little messy, but it's what Juliet asked me to do, so I do it. Talking to patrons, Aspen taught me that word. It's getting easier as well. The first few times someone came up to me for help, I was so nervous that I could barely speak. There's so much to remember and still so much to learn. I still don't like talking to people in general, but it feels easier now. I get a little anxious when I see someone walking up to the counter, but it's not too bad. Of course, everyone who comes up thinks it's my first day here. Even though I've started to recognize some of the guests, they never recognize me. Aspen's the only one who comes by every day. What I didn't expect was the hardest part would be checking out books to people. It's a little sheet of paper with a bunch of little boxes in them, and I'm supposed to write the names of each person and the books they're taking. Since I have to copy the letters by hand each time, it takes me a while. If someone has a lot of books or ones with really long titles, then it takes me even longer. Sometimes people get a little impatient, but I'm going as fast as I can. Either way, it makes the days go by faster. I wouldn't really call it fun, but I don't hate it either. Having a bit of money that I earned rather than stole feels surprisingly good too. At least I don't have to worry about someone trying to take it back. I hear the front door open and look up to greet the new person like Juliet taught me. Turns out to be a familiar face, my nerves settling a little at the sight of her.
Hey, Miho.
Hi, Aspen.
Oops, sometimes I forget I'm not supposed to be loud here.
Hi, Aspen.
I say it again, but quieter. She comes up to the desk and sets down a couple of books that she just checked out a few days ago.
Whoa. Done already?
One of them I simply couldn't put down because I had to know how the story ends. I was worried it would have a sad conclusion, but the ghost girl becomes real and gets to stay with her girlfriend, and they all live happily ever after.
Spoilers for another one of Studio Élan's games.
The other book was unreadable, unfortunately. I won't be trying that author again.
That's too bad. Should I tell Julia we can get rid of this one?
Well, it's not that terrible. I'm sure someone out there could enjoy it, just not me.
If you say so.
Seems to me like if Aspen doesn't like a book, then that book must be really, really bad. Maybe I'll ask Juliet about it later anyway. For now, though, I start copying the titles down onto the return sheet while Aspen goes off to find new books. She comes back right as I'm finishing up with a small stack in her hands.
You find books as fast as you finish them.
If only. I knew exactly what I was looking for this time.
She hands me the pile and I begin writing the names down. I can feel her watching me as my hands make each slow line.
Say, Miho.
I have to finish the letter I'm working on before I can pay attention to Aspen.
Yeah? Have you,
She wrings her hands, looking like she's not sure how to ask her question. Aspen seems to think a lot before she speaks, so I've learned that sometimes it's easier just to make her spit it out.
Just say it. I don't mind.
Sure enough, her eyes widen, but she stops fidgeting.
Have you ever considered learning to read and write? It would probably save you, quite a bit of time.
Big if true. I look down at the mess of scribbles on the paper in front of me. Even though I wrote them, they don't mean anything to me. Juliet never seems to have an issue, though, so it's good enough for me.
Not really. I've gotten by fine without it so far.
Oh, come on. You can't keep using that excuse for everything. You've been here for more than a month now.
Well...
She does have a point there. I told myself so many times that I was going to stop letting my past define me, but still, reading and writing? It would be useful, it's true. With so many letters, though, it seems like a lot of work. I'm already doing a lot of work as it is.
I don't even know how to start doing that.
I'd be happy to help you, and I'm sure Juliet would too. She'd be delighted if you picked it up.
Her usually quiet voice starts to raise, only adding to my doubts.
I'll think about it, I guess.
No, I won't take no for an answer. I'll do some research when I get home and bring some materials later. We can make a lesson plan and a schedule and...
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't I get any say in this?
Nope.
You didn't say no, and that's enough for me. Oh, but that isn't what I came here to talk to you about.
Aren't you here to get books?
Right, that too. But anyway...
Aspen reaches into her purse and pulls out a slightly crumpled flyer, which she hands to me. Looking at the glossy cover, it's covered in pictures of little vases and statues and other odd-looking things.
There's an exhibition at Te-Papa about Korean history and culture, for a limited time only. I thought you might be interested in seeing it.
An exhibit at your dad?
No, it's our biggest museum. Te-Papa is one of the most interesting places in Wellington, perhaps even New Zealand as a whole. You can enter for free, so that isn't a concern. Look, there's even a map of how to get there on the back.
After I flip the flyer over, she points to a map of Wellington that's very similar to the one I used on my first day here.
This is the Bell House, so you just go up this road, turn here, then here.
I nod as she explains, but it isn't really necessary. I may not be able to read, but at least I can use a map. Ah, that's better than some of my friends.
Anyway, it's only open when I'm at work, so I won't be able to join you. But I imagine you might appreciate having some time to yourself too.
Now that you mention it... yeah...
It's been a long time since I've really had a moment to myself. Other than when I go to bed, I'm always around Aspen or Juliet, or the patrons at the library. It's another big change in me. I'm noticing them more and more these days.
I'll check it out. Thanks. Maybe they'll have something that can help me find my person.
Aspen smiles, but it's a thin smile, like she's once again holding back from saying something. This time, however, she doesn't give me a chance to make her say it.
Perhaps, yes. Right, well, I need to get back to work. My break will be over soon. I just wanted to pick these up so I have something to read during any downtime at my shift. I'll see you this evening after I look up some reading resources. Tell Juliet I said hello.
Will do. Bye.
With a smile, Aspen blows a kiss, then quickly spins around and heads out the door, leaving me standing about with the flyer in my hands. Without any patrons waiting around, I take a closer look at some of the artifacts on the pages. Most of them are cracked and worn with age, but still have a little color to them. A couple have writing on them that I can tell is different language from the one I've been getting used to copying here. In a way, they seem kind of familiar. Not just familiar, but nostalgic. Like they're related to a memory that's just out of reach. I don't know if it'll bring me any answers, but maybe there'll be something interesting to see.
Hiya. I've got these to check out, please.
I quickly tuck the pamphlet into one of my pockets, turning to greet the young boy eagerly waiting at the counter with several books to check out.
You got it.
I lift the first book off the stack and slowly begin my process. Maybe Aspen's lesson won't be so bad after all. Closing time finally comes around, the patrons slowly trickling out. Some of them linger for a while, making their final selections before bringing them up to the counter. Fortunately, Juliet's here to help me out. It would take all night to get through the line of people waiting.
Thank you very much, Miss Callahan. We'll see you next time. Oh, Dotty. Glad to see you're still reading Pullman. Only one left to go in the series. Bye-bye, Abdul. Bye-bye, Jamar.
In the time it takes to get me to finish writing down one person's checkouts, Juliet can get through 5. She even knows everyone by name, as well as their reading habits. It always impresses me. How does she keep track of them all? We finally manage to get through everyone, a sigh of relief escaping as the last patron heads out.
Oh, thank you.
My ears prick up at the sound of Aspen's voice as the patron holds the door open for her.
Sorry, we're closed.
Aspen hesitates for a moment as she walks up to the desk, but then she laughs.
You almost had me for a moment.
Collapse onto my cushion while Juliet puts everything away under the desk.
Excellent work today, Miho. You're getting better and better.
Am I? It doesn't really feel like it.
It can be hard to notice your own progress sometimes, but I promise it's there.
And it's only going to get better. Look what I brought.
She wraps her knuckles against the pile of thin books she brought with her. There's also a small bag that rattles when she moves it.
Are those? Yes, they're the phonic books I said I'd bring by.
Phonics? Why, Miho, have you decided to learn to read?
Well, Aspen decided for me, but I guess so.
I pick up one of the books from Aspen's pile. The words on it are big and written in a very simple style, and so are the pictures that go along with it. I've spent enough time in the library now to recognize that these kinds of books are meant for little kids. But I guess that's what I need, isn't it? It's embarrassing, but maybe I can just use that as motivation to learn faster. If I end up hating it, I can just quit. Like always, I have the option of running away from something I don't like. Still, holding the book, I look up to see Juliet and Aspen are both watching me, waiting to see what I'll say. I take a deep breath and smile.
So, how do I start?
Both of them break into a grin as well.
I have just the thing. Come with me.
Aspen's so eager that she barely waits for Juliet and I to step out from the counter before leading us to a table besides the aisles of books. Guessing that I'll be here for a while, I pull up a seat with a curious Juliet who hovers over my shoulder. She sits down and begins unpacking the bag she brought onto the table, turning out a bunch of pens and pencils. She hands me one before placing a small workbook in front of me.
Let's start with the alphabet. Juliet, would you mind? Your handwriting is much better than mine.
Gladly.
Realizing, pardon me, she's going to be a part of this, she quickly takes a seat on the other side and selects a sleek black pen. Opening the book, she brings her pen to one of the blank lines.
So, to begin with, this is the letter A.
Two of them take turns going through the different letters of the alphabet, showing me how to write them. Although I have a hard time remembering which is which, I pick up the writing part pretty fast since I've had lots of experience at work already. Each of them writes an example letter at the top of the page first before I take my turn to try it. Juliet's handwriting is very precise and clean and reminds me of something you'd see on an advertisement or a book. Aspen's, on the other hand, is almost as messy as mine. Sometimes I'm not sure she's even writing the same letters as Juliet and I. After we get through the whole alphabet, they quiz me by holding up cards with different letters and asking me to name them. I get a lot of them wrong, but I get a lot of them right, too. When Aspen finally calls it quits for the night, I'm a little bit disappointed.
So, how do you feel? I think you made very good progress for this being your first night.
Indeed. You should be proud of yourself, Miho.
I can't keep a little smile off my face. Maybe I am a little proud.
It was more fun than I thought it'd be. It was tough at first, but I think I'm getting the hang of it.
You certainly are.
Yes, if you work on it a little bit each night, I'm sure you'll make great progress.
The workbook that Aspen gave me already has a few pages complete because of how fast we're going.
Do you think I could learn to read by the end of this week?
The look that the two of them exchange tells me my answer.
Well...
Not that quickly, I'm afraid. Even for the fastest learners, it still takes a few months to make much progress in reading. Going by how quickly you picked this much up, though, I think you'll do just fine.
Oh, I see.
I've been expecting this to take a few nights at most, but months? That's a lot longer than I was anticipating. I must look disappointed because Aspen frowns and leans forward.
Don't worry, I'm sure that time will fly by. As long as you're getting a little better every day, you'll be able to notice the results soon. Here, why don't you try this?
Aspen gets up from the desk and maneuvers behind me, putting her hand on top of mine. It's a little shaky and I notice her face is red as she makes a point not to look at me. I almost jerk it away out of instinct, but keep my cool instead. I'm not used to people touching me, but I know that with Aspen it's just a friendly gesture.
Here, follow these lines.
She gently guides my hand up and down across the paper, slowly forming the letters on the page with me. After 4 letters, she stops and scurries back to her seat. Juliet's snort of amusement from my side only confuses me further.
Can you read what that says?
I look down. The word on the page looks familiar. I squeeze my eyes shut, picturing the cards that they were holding up and what each letter sounded like.
Me... Miho!
With a jolt, I realize it's my own name. Juliet and Aspen both clap excitedly, a blush forming on my cheeks.
Yes! You did it!
I still can't shake the feeling that it's kind of embarrassing to have them cheer me on for something so simple. Looking down at the paper with my name on it, though, I have to smile a little too. It's the first time I've written my own name, even if I did have Aspen's help. It's the first time I've read it myself, too. I stare at it intently, committing the shape of those letters and the motions to make them into my memory. I've used so many names in my life, but for some reason this one feels special. Just for good measure, I write it down a few more times to practice. Each time it gets a little bit less shaky and more legible.
Thank you. Seriously.
Even if this wasn't my idea to start with, it feels like a new milestone in my life already. Start of something else that's new. I can add that to the list.
It's our pleasure.
Right. Especially since, I did kind of force you into it.
How rude.
It's okay. Turns out I need people to make me do stuff sometimes.
I'm certainly good at that. You'll have to wait until tomorrow for more, though. I've already stayed a bit too late as it is.
Oh my, I hadn't even noticed the time. It sure did fly by, didn't it?
As she gets up to leave, Juliet and I take to our feet as well. Before realizing it, I let out a yawn.
I'll leave all this stuff with you, Miho, so you can study at your own pace. I'll try to come by at nights as well to help you practice.
And you're always welcome to ask me for advice, too.
Thanks. I'm gonna practice during work too, when I don't have anything else to do.
That sounds wonderful. Good night, you two. Thanks for having me over.
Bye, Aspen!
Good night, Aspen. We'll see you soon.
With her trademark smile and wave, Aspen leaves the library. Two of us watch her go as she heads out into the night's darkness outside.
I imagine you must be tired too, right?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I really am.
My hands are sore from all the writing, and my palm is colored gray with smeared pencil lead and ink.
Can't believe that wore me out.
You had a full day of work too. You should get some rest. I'll finish cleaning up and preparing for tomorrow.
Are you sure? I didn't really do many of my chores today.
I'm certain. Go on, go to bed.
Secretly glad to be heading to bed rather than doing more work, I start to head out. As I look back, Juliet playfully waves me out of the room.
Good night. And thanks again.
You're always welcome, Miho. Have a good night.
With a pause for another yawn, I stretch and head up the stairs. I'm going to sleep well tonight. As I lie in bed and wait for sleep to take me, I reflect on my day like always. Today was a good day. I accomplished a lot, and I feel proud of myself. I can tell that Juliet and Aspen are proud of me, too. That's taken some getting used to. It still weirds me out to think that people care about me. They even think of me when I'm not around them. They're excited for me, about things that don't affect them. It's weird, but in a good way. Now that I think about it, it's been a while since I've had a bad day. The shock and uneasiness of having a safe place to live and a stable life have worn off. My daily routine has become just that. Routine. I thought I'd never get used to things like this. They'd never be real for me. It turns out I was wrong. Rather than constantly overthink everything, I've gotten better at just going with the flow. I think that's something to be proud of, too. Rolling onto my side, I look around my room. It hasn't changed too much since I moved in, but it still feels distinctly mine. This isn't just a space that I happen to be in. Smiling, I close my eyes and roll onto my other side. Just when did I become so sentimental? It's hard to say, but maybe that's okay, too. I don't mind who I am right now, and my friends don't either. That's enough for me. With peaceful thoughts like that drifting through my mind, I also drift off to sleep. Work's been quiet today, with only a handful of patrons coming in at all. The few still here keep to themselves, quietly reading and browsing the aisles. I'd normally be bored on a day like this. It's a good thing I have something new to keep me occupied during my downtime, then. A few of the worksheets and books that Aspen gave me yesterday are spread out on the desk, out of the way of our guests, but still where I can see them. Whenever I get a few minutes to myself, I practice writing letters or memorizing their sounds. When I have to write down titles that are being checked out, I pay more attention to what exactly I'm writing. Pleased to notice it goes faster now than it did before. I still have a long way to go, but I can feel myself making progress with every word that I finish. That sense of pride helps motivate me to keep trying. Even when I'm away from the desk, tidying things up or putting books away, I try to think about letters and words. It's nice to have something to focus on rather than just trying to find ways to fill the hours. Just as I settle back down to work with a quick lunch, Juliet comes down from her room with a folded parasol in hand. With a calm nod of greeting, she walks up and joins me behind the desk.
Hey! You're up early.
Yes, I had some daylight errands to attend to. How are you doing, Miho?
Great! Check it out!
I show her one of my worksheets, which was really just a blank piece of paper. On it, I've written my name over and over to practice. The first few, okay, most of them, are fairly messy. I think I get the hang of it by the end of the page, though, and those ones are more legible. I offer the paper to Juliet, who looks over it with a smile.
Great job! I'm very proud of you.
Thanks! I'm proud of me, too. What kind of errands are you running? Need any help?
Not this time. I'm just making a couple deliveries that can't wait until the evening. Will you be alright here by yourself?
Yep! I think I've got the hang of everything by now.
I'm pretty used to handling my duties on my own. If there was ever a problem, it wouldn't be hard to go find Juliet to get her help. That hasn't happened yet, thankfully.
Excellent. I know I've said it before, but you've been a great help around the library. I appreciate your hard work.
Oh, it's not that hard. Besides, it gives me something to do.
That's nice to hear. Don't forget to take some time for yourself, and have fun every now and then, though.
I think that's some advice Juliet herself should follow more often, but I keep that opinion to myself.
I will. Actually, I'm going to the museum after this. Aspen told me there's an exhibit all about Korea going on there. So, I'm hoping maybe I'll learn something useful.
Useful?
Yeah, like about my person.
Oh, I see.
Juliet gives me the same small smile that Aspen did when I mentioned my person yesterday. I know they think it's probably hopeless, but I can't give up. I don't understand how they don't understand, since both of them are always talking about caring for those close to you and making lasting bonds. Still, Aspen and Juliet have both done too much for me to hold that against them.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck. You know you can always ask me for help if you need any.
I know. Thanks.
Anytime. I'm going to head out now, but I'll make sure to come back early enough for you to go to Tipapa.
Sounds good. I'll keep studying and working until then. Bye!
Goodbye, Miho.
As Juliet goes out the front door, she pops her parasol open to protect her from the sun, then strolls out and joins the day's crowds. I stare at the now-closed door, thinking, wonder if Aspen or Juliet have ever felt the same way about someone as I have about my person. It's a hard feeling to describe. It's something warm. I may have forgotten a lot over the years, but I'll never forget their face or voice, or the way they smelled, like charcoal and paint. All of those things are too important to forget. Kept me going my whole life. Been my entire reason for existence. At least until arriving in Wellington, anyway. Even with my new life here, I can't just abandon my old one. Not entirely. Maybe they don't know how much it means to me. I couldn't blame them, since I've told them all about how little I cared about everything else. Maybe they think it's like a hobby, something to pursue when I have nothing else to do. Even here in the library, surrounded by friends and busying myself with my job, not a day goes by where I don't think of that person, or that forest back in Korea, and my person. It's okay if Aspen and Juliet don't understand. They don't need to. It's important to me, and that's all that matters. So far, they've supported me whatever I do. In fact, when I think about those two, I feel a similar way when I think about my person. That warm, safe feeling. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. And I don't think that's a coincidence. There have been a lot of new feelings that I don't quite have words for. Like so many other parts of myself, I'm still figuring them out. That may take time, but I have plenty of it. Realizing that I've zoned out, pull myself away from my thoughts and get back to focusing on work and studying. I may have lots of time, but I need to make sure I use it well. Only an hour or two later, I look up from my work to see Juliet returning from her errands. Folding up her parasol, she soon joins me at the front desk again.
Hello again, Miho. I tried to hurry back so you'd have plenty of time at the museum. You can go ahead and head off. I can handle the library for the rest of the day.
Cool, thanks. I tried to clean up and do as much as I could before you got back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Enjoy yourself. You'll have to tell me all about it when you get back.
Will do.
Put away my study materials in my room, and then with a big thumbs up to Juliet, leave the library.
Fresh air again.
Since I've been spending so much time inside since I started working, my walks and time outside are more refreshing than they used to be. The birds singing sound prettier, the scent of food wafting up from the town smells tastier, and I'll bet even the grass would feel softer if I was in my fox form to feel it. It's been a long time since I've transformed, now that I think about it. I need to stay focused for today, though. The museum is the only thing on my mind. I pick up my pace as I walk into Wellington, heading along the now familiar streets. Pass by the bell house and glance inside, but I don't see Aspen. She mentioned she'd be working late today. She must be in the back, or maybe on a break. Follow directions she gave me yesterday until I reach the building that has to be my destination. It's a big, with parts that go off in all different directions. Near the front, there are 2 sections flanking the entrance. One is round and tan, while the other is made of darker stone and looks more blocky. It's a bit intimidating, but seeing a few people heading in and out is reassuring. Taking a breath to steady myself, I stride on up. The entrance has a huge glass ceiling with glass doors that slide open when I approach them. I don't even have to pay or sneak in.
Whoa.
The moment I step inside, I can safely say I've never been in a place like this before. It looked big from the outside. From the inside, it's huge.
How am I gonna find the crane exhibit?
I don't even know where to look first. Different paths lead to different types of displays, and I can see floors and elevators going all the way to the top. A family walks by me, following a big arrow that points deeper into the building. Without any better ideas, I decide to take the same route. I'm sure I could ask someone where the exhibit is, but I'll look around on my own first. If I can't find it for a while, then I'll ask for help. I start to wander about once inside, looking for anything that I might recognize from Korea. To my surprise, there's plenty of other exhibits that end up catching my eye. In one section, a variety of sea life, fish, turtles, and others, hang from wires above everything else. They look so lifelike that I think they're real animals at first, but after staring closely, I can see they're just models. Another part of the museum is filled with skeletons of what looks like giant monsters. I can't even imagine what kind of creatures they once were. Maybe dragons? Spotting a panel with some illustrations, I skip over for a quick look. They're not dragons, but they're awfully close. I've only seen a dragon once or twice in my life, but I've never seen one of these. Other sections are dedicated to human and fabled civilizations. They're recreations of old human houses, as well as diagrams showing fairy homes and werewolf dens, plus plenty of others. The tour guide talks to a small group as I walk around, explaining this and that. I go slower through this part, feeling a little nostalgic. I even recognize some of the human technology and knickknacks from long ago. I had no idea they were old enough to be part of a museum now. There's even a big memorial to the war, showing humans and fabled fighting against one another. At the front of it is a painting where the peace treaty was signed, which was the start of humanity and the fabled coexisting. I was around back then, but I stayed out of it, just like I stayed out of most things. Honestly, the history doesn't interest me too much, but I'm sure Juliet would love to see this. I'm sure she already has at some point. So I'm thinking of giving up and asking for help. I finally find what I'm looking for. A large banner with some text I recognize as Hangul, the Korean writing system, is hanging over a number of display cases and tabletop exhibits. I hurry over to get a closer look. It's quieter up here than it was on some of the lower floors. I'm able to take my time browsing without feeling like I'm getting in anyone's way. At the same time, my heart starts to beat faster with anticipation. I may not know what I'm searching for, but I'm sure I'll know it when I see it. I start at the entrance and slowly make my way through. The first section is full of pottery and carvings, like from the brochure Aspen gave me. There are little animals and people carved out of stone, and even a few made of metal. A number of clay pots and vases sit on pedestals next to them. Most are cracked or damaged, but some look as good as new. Moving on to the next part, there are a few intricate-looking outfits adorning mannequins. Some are just pants and a jacket, but most are vividly colored dresses that hang to the floor. I can almost feel the delicate silk in my hands. If I was still a thief, I bet these would sell for a lot. After the clothes are paintings. Tigers and birds are common subjects, but so are people in cities, too. Other feature gorgeous landscapes and flowers. I've never been a big fan of art, but somehow these look different. Looking at them doesn't make me feel sad, but it makes me feel something. Like I'm wanting something that I can't have. Suddenly it comes to me, a feeling I've heard about, but I don't think I've experienced before. Homesickness. A painting of a green forest could be the one where I was born. I've passed through towns that look like those in the paintings, and hid from humans who look like the ones shown inside them. Not all the memories are good ones, but they're mine. There's not much I can relate to nowadays in terms of people or places. I have friends now, sure, but I don't have much in common with them. That's never mattered before, but now? Wish I could reach out and touch the paintings before me, just to feel something from the same era as me. Of course, they're behind ropes which keep me well back. I reluctantly start to move on again. Just as I do, a certain painting catches my eye. It's small and displayed out of the way in a corner, as if nobody thought that it was an important one. The edges are jagged and torn, but the crucial part is still there. On one side, there's a fox surrounded by trees and leaves. Its fur is a different color than mine, but it's still clearly a fox. Just across from it is a human-like figure. She's dressed in an outfit similar to the ones I was admiring, but that's not what stands out the most to me. Over her head are 2 pointy ears, and several long, bushy tails peek out from the bottom of her dress. When I look at the fox again, I notice that it has more than one tail. I breathe in deeply, as if I could inhale the scent of the forest just from this artwork. Another Gumiho? I take in all the details that I can. She's smiling, but a sharp fang makes her smile look sinister. The hand at her side has long claws instead of regular fingernails. Claws that are clearly meant for ripping. Whatever she's looking and smiling at is missing, being part of the torn section. It's just a small part that remains. A pair of boots on the ground, surrounded by the edge of what must be a pool of blood. Only then do I notice the blood around her lips and on the ground beneath her claws. And then the unmistakable bone-white bead hanging from a string around her neck. It's glowing like the moon. I instinctively raise a hand to my neck, feeling my own bead. It's reassuringly warm to the touch. Somehow I get the feeling the one in the painting would be ice cold. This portrait of Gumiho leaves me conflicted. It's the same longing I felt looking at the painting of the forest. Those claws and the blood. Those feel foreign and detached. Is this how most people view Gumiho? Explain the fear and terror that seemed to follow me wherever I went when I was younger. The curses and threats from farmers and townsfolk whenever they saw me. It wasn't until after the war, when the fable became more common in human lands, that I felt comfortable without my ears and tail hidden. Even then, I'd sometimes get dirty looks just for existing. Threats were usually reserved for when I got caught stealing. Still, I've never been like the Gumiho in the painting. Stealing's just one thing, but hurting someone? That isn't me. I wish they'd been able to explain that to them. Wonder how different my life would have been. I tear my eyes away from the painting, but I know I'll be thinking about it for a long time to come. There's no point dwelling on what could have been. I pass through the rest of the Korean exhibit quickly, barely glancing at the artifacts I haven't seen yet. It isn't until I've nearly left the gallery that I see something that makes me pause again. It's a small and unremarkable display, in a case amongst others. There are a number of delicate scrolls. On each one, a few Korean-style characters are written. I don't think they're Hangul, but I don't know what they're called. They do look familiar, though. I left my own scroll back at home for safekeeping, but I don't need it with me to compare. The sweep of the brushstrokes, the shape of the characters, the shade of the ink. Closing my eyes and breathing deeply, I swear I can smell them. My person. I press my hands against the glass. It's the closest I've been in hundreds of years. After centuries of looking, I finally...
Hey, no touching!
I leap backwards as someone shouts. I look around and see a woman wearing a badge and museum t-shirt stalking towards me angrily. My instincts I thought I'd buried kick in. It's time to run. Backing up, I look around for getaway routes, but there isn't one. Surrounded on almost all sides by cases, the only open direction is the one the attendant is approaching from. Think, Miho, think. There has to be a way out of this. Could I jump over the displays? No, they're way too tall. Maybe if I transformed, I'd get past the attendant. No idea how to navigate this building, though, and being a fox would attract way too much attention in a place like this. If I wait for them to get close, I could probably run past them like the security guard when I first arrived in Wellington. Heart racing, my panic must show on my face because they stop a couple meters away from me, frowning.
Hey, it's not that big a deal. Just please keep your hands off in the future.
With a shrug, they turn around and leave, leaving me alone. That's it? My hands are shaking as I watch them retreat, expecting them to snap around and come after me. Of course, that doesn't happen, and I'm very slowly able to relax. All I'm left feeling afterwards is a lot of embarrassment. Looking around, I'm glad there aren't many people in this area, and nobody's looking at me either, whether out of politeness or because they just didn't notice. My face is burning red, and I look down at the scrolls again, just to hide it. I sigh. Maybe it was silly of me to think that I could change myself entirely in such a short time. Considering I've just been remembering the old days and all the abuse that I went through from humans, it makes some sense. After I settle myself down a little, I turn my attention back to what's really important. While I know that these scrolls have to be from my person, they don't help me much on their own. There's a little card in one corner of the case covered in text. I might have something useful written on it, but that doesn't do me any good. Consider trying to copy it all down to have Aspen or Juliet read it to me later, but there's so many words I'm not sure I could get them all. I gulp, looking over the museum attendant who I was scared of just a moment ago. I do have one option. Summoning all my courage, I approach them slowly. They're just a regular person, I remind myself, like Aspen or Juliet. Or even like me, now. Just doing their job.
Excuse me?
I hope that's polite enough. As she looks back over to me, her face doesn't look annoyed. Or bored.
Can I help you? I'm sorry for touching the glass. I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about those papers, like who wrote them.
Like I said, it's no big deal. It's just a safety precaution so nothing gets damaged. Anyway, there's an informational plaque in the corner. It should have all those details.
Would they even believe me if I said I can't read? I worry that might make me even more suspicious.
Can't see very well, and the words are so small. Can you read it for me?
Oh, sure. Let's see.
It was almost too easy. They don't question or analyze me at all, simply walking over and leaning in next to me.
Says here these were some of the first works by a calligrapher whose name was Zhong-ing in the 17th century. They were a scholar who lived in Korea and...
The attendant keeps reading, but I'm not listening. I've already gotten what I came for. A name. So assuming this takes place in present day, Miho is at least 400 years old. John-in. For the first time, I have something to call them, something that's unmistakably theirs. I don't think we ever get full confirmation on her age, though, or Juliet's for that matter. Suffice to say, she is also very old. I pretend to listen to the rest of what's being read out loud, and thank the person on autopilot when they're done. My head's not here in the present moment. It's back in the forest where I was born.
Chong-in.
Once they've walked away, I say it out loud, trying out how it sounds. I think it fits them.
Chong-in. Chong-in.
I say it over and over, making sure I'll never forget. Finally, I have something to go off. Feeling a little bit dazed from the enormity of the moment, I find my way downstairs and wander out of the museum. I can't wait to tell Juliet and Aspen. I'm so excited I end up missing my turn to take me back to the library, lost in thoughts of what'll happen when I get out there instead. Don't even realize I've zoned out until I reach the edge of Mount Victoria, right where the city streets turn into parkland.
Oops. Good thing I can find my way back from here.
I'm still within the area I visited before, so I'll be able to use the mountain as a landmark to find my way back. I hum to myself as I turn, head abuzz with pleasant thoughts. Like if Juliet my person's name, I'm sure she can help me track them down. That's what she specializes in, after all. I'm sure Aspen will want to hear all about their life too. She loves stories. I'm sure John-in will have a ton. Not sure how they'll feel about seeing me again. I doubt they ever expected it to happen. They'll definitely be surprised I'm not just the fox they met back then, but a person now. I have a feeling they'll at least be as glad as I am. I may be halfway home before I realize that I'm not alone. The prickling sensation on the back of my neck is unmistakable. My instincts are telling me that someone else is nearby. I'm still near the mountain, but it's practically empty here. I can hear the sound of other people in the distance, but they're all hidden by the trees and hills. I whip my head back and forth, but try as I might, I can't figure out where they are. It's a strange and disconcerting feeling, given how easily I can pick up even the smallest of animals. Then, from the corner of my eye, I spot a bush slightly shuffling. Just as I turn to take a proper look, the silver fox I saw the other day steps out of it.
Oh, it's just you.
I start to bend down and reach out a hand like I would pet a dog, but hesitate. I know from experience that a fox wouldn't respond to that. Surprised she hasn't run away already. That's what I would have done. She stares at me with the slightest movement, her eyes locked on mine. My heart jumps as the hairs in the back of my neck stand up. Something is off. Then, without taking her eyes off me, she starts to transform. I barely have time to be shocked as her arms and legs get longer and her fur retracts, head shrinking and changing into something more human-like. For the first time in my life, I am face to face with another Gumiho. My throat tightens and goes dry, my vision narrows, my ears start ringing in shock. It's as if the world has fallen away, except for me and her. The silver and black clothes she's wearing seem to shimmer in the moonlight, the skin of a snake waiting to strike. Hanging loosely on her frame, the wrapped fabrics around her body and face make her appear almost formless. Her only accessory is a bracelet around her wrist. It's a plain leather band, but a shining white bead is held in the middle by another loop of leather. I recognize that bead. I have one just like it. Well, almost like it. Whereas mine is a duller, milky color, hers is so bright that it almost hurts to look at. The soft blue glow around it reminds me of the full moon. It's almost like she stepped out of the painting I just saw at the museum. A shawl covers most of her face, but her hair and eyes are still visible. Those intense eyes. Her gaze reminds me of steel. They're the same shape as mine, they're sharper, angrier, crueler. She haughtily tosses her long, flowing hair back as she takes a step towards me. I skip back, keeping the distance between us. When I lived in the forest, I knew how to flee when I met a predator stronger than I was. Better to get away alive than risk my life for pride. My survival instinct tells me this is one of those times. The other Gumiho laughs, but there's no humor in it. Sharp and hollow, it only makes me more uneasy.
So, the human pet still knows when to run. The human... what? Pet. I've been watching you for a while. Ever since you came to this place, actually. Watched you demean and domesticate yourself for the sake of humans. It's pathetic. When you first arrived, I was hopeful that we might be alike. Optimistic, even. I was a fool. I see you now for what you are. Nothing better than a dog, begging for its master's affection and table scraps. We are not the same. We are nothing alike.
Her words hang in the air, poisoning my good mood from just moments ago. My first instinct is to run away as usual. Something stops me, though. I'm entranced. The novelty of this experience, of finally meeting another Gumiho, keeps me rooted in place despite my fear. No matter what she's like, this is the closest I've ever been to someone like me. I swallow the lump in my throat and hope that my voice doesn't shake as much as I think it will.
So what? Did you ambush me just to say that? Ambush? You should have known weeks ago that I was following you. But I repeat myself. You've numbed yourself to your instincts and your potential. I saw you in that place of memories, saw you gaze upon the portrait of one of our sisters. I hope that you would open your eyes, as you haven't before. It pains me to see your existence do disservice to our very kind. Now that you have seen what you could and should be, Perhaps you can still change yourself, dog. Sharpen your teeth and claws once more. These creatures that you bind yourself to, those human and those not, they are but shackles, slowly squeezing away at which is wild and free in you. Do not mistake my words for sympathy or pity. I would see you gone from this place. But so long as you remain, your presence is an eyesore. It pains me to witness. Thus, I will do what I must to cure it, as unpleasant a task as it may be. You will never be one of them, no matter how much you might crave it. Better to embrace what you are and can be. Anything else is a waste of your abilities.
She studies me for a moment longer, and then turns away. I feel like I should say something, but I can't find the words. Whether from shock or fear, I'm too dazed to so much as stammer out a denial. Her clothes melt away into silver fur as she transforms back into a fox. I reach out to stop her, but she flits off and disappears into the darkness without a moment's hesitation. The world around me rushes back in, my skin suddenly feeling cold in the night air. The rush of emotions going through my head evaporates, and the adrenaline that was running through me ebbs away. I'm left just standing there, alone. Closing my eyes, I muster the strength that I haven't tapped into in weeks. My bead feels warm as I transform, my body following the same motions as the other Gumihos. I try to start chasing her, but my first steps on four legs are shaky. I've grown unfamiliar with this form, almost stumbling over, just trying to move. Maybe there's a bit of truth in what she said. I take a few more steps towards the brush, but soon give up. Even if I caught her, what would I say? What would I do? Will I make a fool of myself? There's a scent on the wind that I couldn't notice as human, but it's unmissable as a fox. I recognize it immediately, from long ago on one of my first mornings here, when I first woke up from my den near the mountain and stepped outside and knew someone had been there. It was her. She really was following me from the beginning. For a long moment, I watched the place where she disappeared. I transformed back. I don't really feel like a fox right now. I don't know what I'm feeling. Some of what she said is true. I haven't used any of my talents in a long, long time. My clumsiness when I'm in my fox form, my own original body as a reminder of that. But as for degrading myself for the sake of others, that doesn't feel true. I spent my entire life living free and only for myself. It's always been my choice to remain here, and not to be forgotten. So why do her words sting so much? I was totally confident in my decision, then they shouldn't bother me, right? Maybe I've forgotten more of myself than I know. The painting at the museum and the other Gumiho herself both prove that there's something different about me. Something that must come easily to everyone else. Same way all the aspects of daily life at home don't come easily to me either. I feel disconnected, torn between two worlds I barely know, but I can't help but being drawn to. Where do I fit in? Where do I belong? I know that Aspen and Juliet would say, but does that make it true? Their home hasn't been my home for long. I've been a thief for so much longer than I've been whatever I am now. Without anything to gain out here, I slowly start to make my way back home again. The excitement I felt about telling Juliet and Aspen everything I found at the museum has vanished. They'll have to wait for another time. After a quiet walk through the empty streets to the library, I quietly slink inside, trying to keep Juliet from noticing. I just don't feel like talking right now. It seems to work. I can hear her bustling around somewhere, but she doesn't call out to me when I come in. Without a word, I ascend the stairs to my room as quickly and quietly as I can and climb under the covers. It's far too early to go to bed, but I don't know what else to do. When awake, my thoughts will only be a bother. Better to sleep it off and hope that I feel better in the morning. Yesterday's events, both good and bad, linger in my mind for a while I perform my usual routine of tossing and turning in bed before I get up. Now that the shock's worn off, I feel a little bit better about what happened. Wonder if I'll have forgotten about the other Gumiho by the end of today. In fact, now that I think about it, it's possible I'd met another Gumiho before and just forgotten about them. Everyone forgets meeting me, so I wonder if it works in reverse, too. Rather than dwell on the idea, I choose to ignore it. There's no way to know. Just drive myself crazy wondering. Instead, I keep myself busy by making myself more presentable for work. Heading into the bathroom, I clean myself up using the soaps and shampoos given to me by Juliet. It's helped me so much ever since I started working here. There's an implication that Miho had gone possibly hundreds of years without bathing before. I guess foxes clean themselves, but... Huh. Looking into the mirror for one final check before I head downstairs for breakfast. Can't think of what the other Gumiho said, how I've domesticated myself. My spotless face looks back at me, framed by fluffy and pampered hair. I can't deny that I've let myself be spoiled by others, content to just go along for the ride.
Snap out of it, Miho.
I lightly pat my face like I've seen Aspen do sometimes when she's getting ready to start her own job. I'm not sure what it's supposed to accomplish, but it makes me feel a bit more confident. Heading downstairs, I'm treated the familiar scent of fresh-cut fruit and frying eggs, as well as the pleasant sound of Aspen and Juliet chatting about books. When I enter the kitchen, I'm greeted with 2 smiles.
Morning, Miho.
Good morning.
Good morning. Breakfast will be ready soon.
Cool.
I slide into my usual spot at the table and grab some apple slices, munching on those while waiting for the other 2 to go back to their conversation. Instead, both of them look at me expectantly.
So, how'd it go?
The museum?
Of course. What else?
Was everything all right? When I didn't hear from you last night, I was fearing the worst.
Oh, nah. It was fine. They even had what I was looking for. There were some more scrolls by my person.
There's a loud clatter as Aspen drops her fork in surprise. Even Juliet's eyes go wide with genuine shock.
There were?
Are you sure it was them?
Yep, definitely. I'd recognize that style anywhere. I learned a lot about them. Their name is Tongin, and they're a scholar. I don't know what they study, though. The museum person didn't say.
For a long moment, there's silence, other than the sound of eggs sizzling in the pan. Both my friends just stare at me, dumbstruck.
What are those looks for?
You seem awfully calm. I assumed you must not have found anything, or you'd have been back immediately.
Yeah, well, there was some other stuff that happened too. I'll tell you about it some other time.
It's tempting to tell them about the Gumiho, if only because I know they'd reassure me about everything she said, but that's why I can't tell them. Not yet. In a way, I'd just be proving her right.
Well, all right.
We'll be here whenever you need us.
Thanks. Is breakfast ready?
Yes, just now. Here you go.
Juliet fills our plates and takes her seat, and we all dig in. It's a quieter meal than usual, with only the sounds of chewing and silverware scraping against the dishes. I feel like Aspen and Juliet are having a conversation in their silence. Of course, they'd expect more from me. I'd expect more from me, too. And right after leaving the museum, I was that excited. I'm still excited, of course. It's just been tempered a little bit. I still plan to ask Aspen and Juliet to help me get in touch with John In, but I want to wait until I can do it with a clear head. Once everyone's finished eating, I gather up the dirty plates and take them to the sink, while Juliet washes the pans and Aspen wipes down the tables. Another routine morning.
I'll see you two later. Thanks for breakfast.
My pleasure, as always.
Bye!
With that, Aspen politely takes her leave and heads out the door. Juliet and I then go into the library ready to start the day. Or end it, in her case. Head to my spot behind the desk and begin getting everything ready. Check out sheets, my pencils and pens, my study materials, and so on.
Are you all set, Miho?
Yep, I've got everything I need.
Wonderful. Well, I'll leave you to it then. Have a good day.
You too. Sleep well.
The way Juliet lingers halfway between me and the stairs, I can tell she wants to say or ask something else. She thinks better of it, simply giving me a smile before heading up to her room. I listen while I whistle while I throw open the curtains and unlock the door. By the time I've returned to the counter, ready for the first patrons to arrive, I even manage a light melody. Been practicing my whistling a lot lately, so way to spend time while alone. Aspen tried to show me how, but she's not very good at it either. I'm pretty sure I'm already better than she is. The sound of it reminds me of the birds back in my home forest. Before long, patrons start to arrive, and I soon have a list of things to do. Books to check in and out, books to return, books to search for. Keeps me good and busy. The hours pass by in blissful normalness. I don't have a single thing to complain about. So, we have an interesting choice here. There is no events going on. This is all just to pass time. And as such, we're going to leave it here. I know this is kind of an awkward spot because the anticipation of what's going to happen next. But we're going to leave it here just because it's getting close to about the 2-hour mark, which is kind of the limit on doing a very talk-heavy stream. So just for sake of my vocal cords. So anyway, this is where we will stop. So, this continues to be Please Be Happy. Got an interesting new twist coming up here. Or already happened, I should say. It was the twist that I wanted to save at the end of last stream because there isn't really a break between some things. And plus, it's always good to start out with whatever goofy shenanigans Lena is up to. So, yes, we will leave it there and continue this later on. I'm certainly still enjoying this. Obviously, this was one of my games of the year last year. And I'm hoping that if you're following along, you're starting to see why there's some very interesting things going on. Anyway, whether you're here live or you watch this VOD later on down the road, I hope you enjoy it too. And until next time, have a good one.